Watch right now on the Front News Project. Lukashenko scares with nuclear weapons and hazelnuts. Russian military enters Belarusian territory under the guise of military exercises. What happens next? Powerful strikes by the Ukrainian armed forces in the deep rear of the Russian Federation. Factories and oil depots are burning. Zaporozhye. Hellish attacks on civilians. Pokrovsk. The situation is critical. The coming week will be decisive. Watch fiery, intense, and blazing footage from the front lines right now. This is the fourth year of the full-scale war that Putin's Russia started on Ukrainian soil. The Ukrainian armed forces continue to heroically defend not only their homeland, but the entire civilized world from the aggression of Kremlin war criminals. Greetings, this is Front News. Vladimir Timoshenko here with you. For the next 30 minutes, you'll get the truth about the war brought to you by our journalists from the hottest combat zones. So, are you ready? Then let's begin. And we're starting right away with exclusive material. Ukraine is attacking enterprises of the Russian military-industrial complex and doing so with unprecedented intensity and effectiveness. Just over the past few nights, friendly drones have paid visits to unique factories that produce components vital for weapons manufacturing. We're talking about helium for rockets, lenses, and military electronics. Why is this happening right now? And what in total is the aggressor country losing as a result of these Ukrainian drone attacks? We'll talk about that next.
Don't be afraid. What is this? What is it? It's nothing serious. Are they flying? Where? Where are they flying to?
Fires at factories and closed airports. That's how August began in Russia. Intensity and effectiveness. Every day, Ukrainian forces strike Russian military targets or defense industry enterprises and report successful attacks on unique defense plants in Russia. These attacks have exposed problems in the Russian Federation's military-industrial complex and caused panic among Russians.
I'm getting blown up here. You idiot, my health. What should I do? Oh, dear Lord, you absolutely must get out of here right this very instant.
Thanks to the Ukrainian Defense Forces, the only Russian plant producing helium for rockets in Orenburg was hit. Local residents reported a series of explosions. The M5 highway was blocked. The Orenburg helium plant processes up to 15 billion cubic meters of gas per year and produces helium, which is critically important for rocket engineering as well as the space and aviation industries. Helium plays a key role in rocket launches. This plant is an important facility for the Russian military-industrial complex directly involved in the aggression against Ukraine. In Yaroslavl, a major fire mysteriously broke out in the building of a paint and coatings company that produces materials for Russia's military-industrial complex. Another strategically important enterprise was attacked in Tatarstan. The distance from the state border with Ukraine is more than 1,000 kilometers. UAVs reached the workshops in Yelabuga. Here, on the territory of Alabuga, is the headquarters of the company that manufactures combat drones. In 2024, the plant significantly expanded the production of Iranian-designed strike and reconnaissance drones, using Chinese components and recruiting Russian teenagers for work. The defense forces gave Stavropol's Monocrystal an explosive night. Monocrystal specializes in the chemical industry, producing synthetic sapphire for optoelectronics, which is used in military equipment.
It's going. They hit it, yes, they hit it. They hit the oil depot. Here's our air defense. Glory to Russia. That's all.
Monocrystal also produces silicon carbide, which is used in armor protection, radars, and military electronics. Monocrystal fulfills state defense orders for the Russian Federation. Eyewitnesses recorded smoke on the factory grounds. The official authorities confirmed the drone threat, but did not provide information about damage to the plant.
It's flying. It's truly flying high in the sky. It's soaring gracefully and beautifully. It is currently firing, indicating that the process or action has successfully commenced and is now in progress.
In Arzamas, Ukrainian drones attacked an instrument-making plant.
One of the country's leading enterprises in the defense industrial complex with a 60-year history. The plant produces devices for the aviation, missile, and space industries.
The Arzamas plant produces gyroscopic instruments, control systems, onboard computers, as well as key components for the Kh-32 and Kh-101 cruise missiles. In 2020, the plant was awarded the National Golden Idea Prize in the field of military technical cooperation. The plant is under sanctions from the US and the European Union. Before the successful attack, a note appeared on the resource Vizota, which is dedicated to news about the military-industrial complex, stating that the plant had acquired new equipment. Now, the press service of the Arzamas instrument building plant is sending out letters in public forums demanding that no one write about the attack, even threatening consequences. Russian defense industry enterprises working for the war against Ukraine are absolutely legitimate military targets. Successful attacks by Ukrainian forces help to reduce the military capabilities of the aggressor country's army. The work to demilitarize facilities that produce weapons for terrorizing peaceful Ukrainian cities continues and is becoming increasingly intense.
And now, let's analyze the operational situation on the long-suffering Pokrovsk direction of the front. The situation here, as usual, is extremely tense. On the Pokrovsk direction, during the course of this day, the aggressor attacked our positions 42 times in the areas of the settlements of Vladimirovka, Nikanorovka, Krasny Liman, Novoekonomikeskoy, Rodinskoy, Luk, Chunishino, Zverevo, Kotlino, Udaknoe, Orekhovo, Nova Ukrainka, and Daknoe. Holding back the enemy onslaught, Ukrainian defenders have already repelled 40 attacks. The fighting has not subsided to this moment. And earlier this week, Russian war criminals attacked Zaporizhzhia with guided aerial bombs. As a result of the enemy shelling, civilians in the city were injured. More than 20 people were injured. The occupiers treacherously and cynically shelled the bus station and the university hospital in the evening, destroying residential buildings, businesses, and shops. The greatest destruction is at the local bus terminal. All the details are in the report from the scene by TSN correspondent Kira Oves.
We are now right next to the bus station. It was almost completely destroyed as a result of a Russian airstrike. Utility workers are still on site. With the help of heavy machinery, they are removing the debris of massive concrete slabs. The moment of the enemy strike was captured by surveillance cameras. The footage shows that the Russians deliberately targeted the bus station with an aerial bomb. This happened at 6 p.m. during a busy time when buses at the station were preparing to depart. There were 11 people there, passengers, staff, and drivers. After the strike, rescuers had to pull one of the injured out from under the rubble. The owner of the market stalls near the bus station recalls how it all happened.
It happened instantly, quickly, and unexpectedly. I already went through an explosion 2 years ago. Back then, a shell from a tornado hit our house, so I know what that's like. Only the walls were left. Cracks appeared. The whole slab is buried. As far as I know, they were pulling someone out from under the debris there.
Right now, the number one task is to dismantle the destroyed structures so they don't fall on drivers and passengers. After all, the station, although operating in a limited capacity, is still functioning. Will it be possible to restore the destroyed buildings? That will be decided by the specialists.
Many slabs, a lot of slabs were destroyed as a result of the airstrike. That's why we're now dismantling and removing as many of the overhanging structures as possible that pose a threat to people's lives and health. It will definitely take several days. After that, we'll be told what to do with this building, whether to completely dismantle it or not. Starting today, buses are departing from the side lot of the bus station. We're setting it up now. There will be a temporary ticket office outside here to sell tickets to passengers. We're also guiding passengers by phone, where to go, how, and what to do.
We're guiding passengers by phone, where, how, and what.
The Russians also hit the medical university hospital. At that time, there were about 100 people there. Patients, doctors, and nurses managed to move away from the windows and go down to the basement level. That's what saved them.
A KB bomb hit and struck a tree. The blast wave damaged everything. Fortunately, no patients were injured. Everyone was evacuated in time.
About 200 windows in the building were damaged, and wards and doctors' offices were destroyed or damaged. Some of the medical equipment was put out of order or now needs repairs. Due to significant destruction, the clinic is currently unable to provide medical care.
Since early morning, interns, staff from the medical university, and clinic employees have been at work, removing debris, sweeping glass-covered corridors and walkways, all to help the clinic resume operations as soon as possible. For now, all patients have had to be discharged home. The blast wave and debris also damaged about a dozen nearby houses. Utility services are working everywhere.
Well then, now we move to the Lyman direction of the front. The enemy army's bloody rampage continues here as well. In the Lyman direction today, Ukrainian defenders repelled 6 Russian attacks in the areas of Novovodyane, Karpivka, Rydkodub, Kolodyazy, and Torske. One battle is still ongoing. Meanwhile, in Belarus, it was announced that during exercises with Russia, they will draw up a plan for the use of nuclear weapons and Oreshnik. But what is really behind this convoluted wording? Is it just another round of nuclear blackmail or a real threat on a planetary scale? And in general, these so-called exercises are a topic of their own. Amid all this, several hundred servicemen and several dozen pieces of Russian military equipment have already arrived in Belarus. Is the enemy capable, just like in 2022, of launching a new offensive from the territory of Belarus? More on this coming up. Russia and Belarus, during their joint Zapad 2025 exercises, plan to practice the use of nuclear weapons and the Oreshnik system.
Of course, we plan to work on issues related to planning the use of nuclear weapons. For us, this is an important element of strategic, above all, deterrence. As for the Oreshnik system, the head of state has already spoken about it more than once. All decisions have been made, the location has been determined, and work is underway. And of course, as part of our Zapad exercise, together with our Russian colleagues, we will also work on planning the use of this type of weapon.
That's an interesting statement, considering that just a month ago, both Putin and Lukashenko were saying that the first Oreshnik installation might only appear in Belarus by the end of the year.
The first thing I want to say in this regard is that we have produced the first serial Oreshnik system, the first serial missile. Yes. And it has been delivered to the troops. Now the series has started. First of all. Second, our specialists, both Belarusian military experts and Russian ones, have chosen the site for the future positions. And right now, work is underway to prepare these positions. So most likely we'll resolve this issue by the end of the year.
Well, we're not rushing. We're taking things calmly. There's no need to try to get ahead of ourselves.
We both understand perfectly well that even if they've gone into mass production, as Putin said at that meeting on the bench, it only just happened recently. So there aren't and won't be any large quantities of this Oreshnik. Because again, our intelligence and our military experts say that this is more of a one-off production.
There are actually a lot of stories connected to Oreshnik and Belarus coming straight from Lukashenko himself. At one point, he didn't know that the components were being made in Belarus. Then Lukashenko boasted that he would personally decide when to press the button.
You probably noticed that my one condition for Putin was this. We in Belarus will determine the targets, not the Russians. But you'll help us operate it, since we don't know how yet. So we'll be pressing the button together, God forbid if it ever comes to that. But we will be the ones to choose the targets. He agreed.
On the one hand, the first goal is achieved, internal propaganda showing that we're surrounded by enemies, but we have a very powerful weapon called Oreshnik. So don't be afraid and stick with me, with Lukashenko, and everything will be fine for you. And the second propaganda goal is aimed at the external audience, which Belarusians are now carrying out by essentially scaring Western countries.
The most interesting thing is that the upcoming Zapad 2025 exercises are being presented as very safe and even peaceful.
There are currently more than 30 military attaché representatives in our country, including from 9 NATO countries. They will also have the opportunity. We are inviting all of them to observe our exercises. In this way, we once again emphasize our peacefulness and openness, and the fact that we truly want to reduce this military tension, which unfortunately we see and feel. As they say, we are taking the first step.
Even Lukashenko himself directly refuted the rumors about where that supposed attack is being prepared from.
We have proven to all of them that we are not planning to attack you and that we will be conducting exercises in the center, deep inside Belarus.
For what purpose?
The exercises?
Yes, the changes in the exercise plans.
So as not to give you, as I already said, any reason to further accuse us of being aggressors, of planning to attack at the very least the countries of Eastern Europe, Poland, the Baltic states, and especially Ukraine.
On the contrary, I would actually interpret this particular interview and Lukashenko's significantly shifted emphasis as very real and compelling evidence that such a military operation is indeed being prepared by the Russians, and that in no way whatsoever, so to speak, have they truly abandoned or completely retreated from carrying it out.
As for the Oreshnik, they started off, as they say, on a high note, boasting that it was the most innovative and deadly weapon, threatening to wipe the entire West to dust with it. And how did it all end, as everyone can see? With isolated public statements that had zero real results.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
And now an analysis of the operational situation on the Siversk sector of the front. The Russian world continues here as well to destroy, kill and maim. On the Siversk direction, Ukrainian soldiers repelled 11 enemy attacks. The occupiers' units tried to advance in the areas of Hrihorivka, Novoselivka and Perezne. One attack is still ongoing. While Russian propaganda continues to feed its population fake stories about the so-called Second Army of the world achieving colossal successes in Ukraine, the objective reality is different. Russian losses at the front are 3 times higher than those of the armed forces of Ukraine. At the same time, the enemy is amassing equipment and manpower in the Donetsk region for a new offensive. More on these and other updates from the front in our review.
Russia has broken through the Ukrainian armed forces' defensive line. The command is reassuring, saying that it's just a few sabotage and reconnaissance groups. Western analysts are already speculating about what the loss of the entire Donetsk region would mean. Meanwhile, Ukraine has launched a counteroffensive in the Sumy region and has recaptured a third of the occupied territories. All the latest news from the front right now. The Russians made a sudden breakthrough at the front ahead of the Putin-Trump meeting. This was reported by the Wall Street Journal. The occupiers found a gap in the Ukrainian defenses and then used their massive manpower reserves to break through. This concerns a salient in the direction of Dobropilya in the Donetsk region.
Now, of course, Russian troops will try to take advantage of this moment, attempting to consolidate their positions, send in additional reinforcements, more troops, and possibly even equipment. And right now, probably in the next few days, the Ukrainian armed forces have a chance to somehow contain this breakthrough, maybe cut off the units that broke through by liberating territory at the very base of the breach, or start attacking from different directions and take all the villages, all the settlements along the way, so there's nowhere for them to hide and so on.
At the same time, military analysts report that the Russian Federation does not control the entire territory that the assault troops managed to pass through. Most likely during the breakthrough, they were moving in light vehicles, and at this point it cannot be said that the enemy has managed to consolidate and take control of the entire salient.
For now, there are only sabotage and reconnaissance groups there. These are irregular troops. These groups are dangerous because they are highly mobile. They will try to seize vehicles in order to infiltrate further. But it should also be remembered that Russian forces constantly use this tactic of small groups to accumulate at certain positions and then advance further.
The Ukrainian command has already responded to the Russian breakthrough. It is reported that the most combat-ready National Guard units from the Azov battalion have been redeployed to reinforce this direction. Those very small assault groups have already felt the impact of this firsthand.
They wanted to go in as groups, but got hit hard. And now we still can't get back out.
Also, commenting on the situation, the spokesperson for the Dnipro military group confirmed the Russians' local success, but noted that it was about a dozen soldiers who managed to slip through the line of demarcation and were pinned down in fighting where they managed to get.
It's not about them taking control of this territory. What actually happened is that a small number of Russians, between 5 and 10 people, managed to get through. And this is absolutely not how it looks on the map. It's not that they took control of the entire route they traveled. They made their way through and tried to hide in a basement.
At the same time, experts note that Pokrovsk itself, the city that all these encirclement attempts are aimed at and which is located somewhat south of the breakthrough site, has been holding out quite confidently despite constant heavy assaults.
Overall, if it weren't for this very breakthrough near Dobropilya right now, I would say that the situation has somewhat stabilized over the past 2 weeks. That is, the Russian troops had been acting actively before, but at Rodinska they really hit a serious obstacle. And for a couple of weeks now, there have been heavy battles there, but they haven't been able to advance. So basically, the defense of this sort of semicircular salient is holding quite confidently. I'll put it cautiously from the perspective of the Ukrainian armed forces. Of course, these are heavy battles. As I've already said, there are a lot of Russian forces there. They're constantly attacking, but nevertheless, we're not seeing any kind of collapse or crisis.
The situation is also tense north of Pokrovsk. There, the Russians have become active again in the Lyman direction. However, after several days of intensified attacks, apart from dozens of assault troops killed, Russia has gained nothing here.
Right now, we're currently seeing significantly increased movement and activity in the general area of the Serebryansky forest, specifically the forestry region. Essentially, this ongoing development is a clear attempt to strategically move further south toward the important city of Slavyansk. Will the enemy succeed in this? Will our forces find the necessary reserves? Well, I don't know. In principle, we do have forces that can, well, at least hold back the enemy's advance.
Monitoring channels are also reporting Russian activity in Crimea. Equipment is currently being transferred there from the Moscow and Leningrad military districts, with the possibility of further deployment to the Zaporizhzhia direction or near Pokrovsk. However, in recent months, for Russia, using armored vehicles in assaults has become a major luxury, so the entire operation could turn out to be just a bluff.
Some of the equipment is more or less available, meaning it can even be moved back and forth just to distract attention. We can't rule out that possibility either. At the moment, yes, the Russian forces haven't set any particularly difficult tasks for the Ukrainian armed forces, specifically on the Zaporizhzhia front in Zaporizhzhia region. That is, yes, there have been some local attacks there. Maybe they'll try to create some more serious tension, including to force reserves to be redeployed from the Pokrovsk direction, so that there simply aren't enough forces everywhere.
But on the Sumy direction, it's the Russians who don't have enough forces. According to President Volodymyr Zelensky, in the Sumy region, the Ukrainian armed forces managed to retake a third of all the captured settlements, which is 6 out of 18. In 2 locations, according to Zelensky, the defense forces even reached the border with Russia.
They can't even properly hold on to these territories. It's not the first village already. Some have been cleared, some have been liberated. Yes, 2 settlements have been freed, and now fighting is still ongoing for Alexeyevka. So the Ukrainian military is gradually, of course, within their means. It's clear they don't have a large number of reserves, but nevertheless they are reducing this bridgehead. It's not expanding, on the contrary, it's gradually shrinking. All of this is because, for example, Russian troops, during their incursion into the Sumy region, are not using heavy equipment, which makes it much harder for them to defend.
The defense forces are also holding their positions in the Zaporizhzhia region and have advanced 1 kilometer deeper into enemy positions in Luhansk.
And now it's time to analyze the situation on the Novopavlivka section of the front. The enemy army is up to its usual tricks here as well. On the Novopavlivka direction, our defenders repelled 9 enemy attacks near the settlements of Malevka, Tolstoy, Shevchenko, and Alexandrograd. 4 clashes are still ongoing. They are covering the ground with mines to prevent the enemy from advancing. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, for a year and a half, the soldiers of the Unmanned Aviation Unit of the 91st Separate Okhtyrka Brigade have been operating. Using the Vampire bomber drone, the fighters destroy Russian equipment, deliver supplies to the hottest spots, and lay mines in the area. TSN correspondent Kira Oves will tell us about the work of these soldiers.
They bomb Russians and their equipment. But the main task of the UAV unit of the 91st Separate Okhtyrka Support Brigade is to thoroughly mine the area.
Hand to hand. Right now there is a massive push along the front, so there aren't enough mines. Before there were sappers, but now there's no such opportunity to go out to a point and lay mines. That's why we do it with the Vampire. Everything is flying, everything is shooting. You have to be quick. An enemy FPV drone can still be there. Man, you can deliver ammunition to places where a sapper team either wouldn't go or where it would be very risky. In other words, we're reducing the risks. The value of a soldier's life is very high right now. We lay mines in places where the enemy either doesn't expect it or where it's advantageous for us.
Correspondent. To communicate with the drone, the crew uses a powerful Starlink antenna. They set up their workstation in 5 minutes because here, time is worth its weight in gold. Next to the navigator and the pilot, a soldier with the call sign Michael is preparing munitions for dropping from the Vampire. He has both anti-tank and anti-personnel mines at his disposal. These are scattered across the ground in the Zaporizhzhia direction.
Man, this is a prototype of the old Soviet OZM-72 mine, but it's been upgraded with electronics. The way it works is that it should be dropped from the aircraft, hit the ground, the blades break off, and then the electronic mechanisms are activated into combat mode.
Correspondent, the aircraft of the 91st Brigade are causing the Russians plenty of trouble. The enemy is doing everything they can to neutralize the Vampires. The bomber drone is large and quite loud, so the crew only operates at night.
Man, they work every night. I'll tell you this, even if there were 100 times more such units, there still wouldn't be any less work to do. The Russians are using a wide range of means: small arms, electronic warfare systems, mobile groups, FPV interceptors, and they're even trying to throw nets with Mavics.
Correspondent, in addition to striking targets and mining, the attack drone is an indispensable assistant in logistics.
Man, as for logistics, well, the situation has gotten worse again because of the FPVs. That's why drones now play a major role in logistics. Medications, water, food, fuel, radios, everything that's needed.
Correspondent, it can even deliver fuel?
Man, yes, it can deliver fuel. There's special packaging so it doesn't break.
The unmanned aviation units of the 91st Separate Okturka Support Brigade have carried out strikes against the occupiers in the Kharkiv region, Donbass and Sumy region. They say they also have plenty of work in the Zaporizhzhia direction.
Man, this includes setting up non-explosive barriers. The guys lay out nets from the drone. This is specifically the installation of explosive barriers. These are various types of mines that we use to stop assaults by both heavy armored vehicles, light vehicles, and other enemy units.
Correspondent, despite being constantly busy, the soldiers are smiling and say they never get tired of inflicting losses on the Russians to bring our victory closer.
Volodymyr Tymoshenko, that's all for today. But very soon, Front News will bring you new, unique reports from our journalists in the hottest spots of the war, gathered so that you know the truth. This was Volodymyr Tymoshenko. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones.